Ringu hitched the bullocks to the cart as his father, mother, and little brother Batu climbed in. Ringu sat in front because he was going to drive. They were leaving their home for the day to go to the bazaar, which is the marketplace. Many people would be there to buy and sell. It was the last bazaar day in this village in central India before the big celebration to honor the bullocks, and Ringu and Batu were excited. The bullock slowly walked along, pulling the cart through the forest. Ringu looked around him at the trees. Evil spirits could be about, or maybe even a tiger. Ringu was glad that it was daytime and that he was not alone in the forest. They reached the motor road, and the brown-skinned boy forgot his fears and jabbed at the bullocks with his pointed stick and twisted their tails. "Get going," he shouted. "Show us what you can do. Show everyone that we can win the race on festival day." The bullocks broke into a run, and the dust swirled up. Only at the edge of the town did Ringu slow the bullocks to a walk. He wanted to see where the strange missionary from another land lived. Ringu had seen the man once. He was tall, very tall, with fair skin and light brown hair. His name was Grub Sahib. People said he talked about just one God, and that people needed to know him instead of always trying to please Satan and the evil spirits. It would be good to hear more, thought Ringu as they passed by the mission. "Let's hurry," Batu begged. Soon they were in town and had the bullocks tied to one of the cartwheels. They all shook the dust from their clothes and started toward the bazaar. Suddenly, Ringu jumped and shrieked. He grabbed his foot and looked at his heel. A long thorn had stuck in it. Gritting his teeth, he yanked the thorn out and then hurried to catch up with the family. Ringu and Batu followed close behind their father while he bought cords with pom-poms and bells to put around the bullocks' necks and chunks of brown sugar to feed the bullocks on the day of the festival. Then father bought coconuts to offer to the evil spirit. "Who knows? Someone might get sick," he said. When no one was looking, Ringu quickly slipped a banana into his dhoti or trousers. It was wrong to steal, he knew, but then didn't everybody steal a little? Suddenly, beautiful music filled the air. All Ringu saw was a crowd gathering, so he jumped up and hurried toward the music, not minding how much his foot hurt. Batu scrambled after him. As they dodged around the people, Ringu bumped into a man and papers fell to the ground. Frightened, Ringu started to run away, but the man stretched out his arm and pulled him back, firmly but gently. "Come, my friend." Ringu stopped and stared. It was the tall man, the missionary, Grub Sahib. The missionary scooped up the papers, giving one to Ringu. "We have come to tell you about the true God who made us," he said. "This paper contains the words of God who sent his son Jesus to die on the cross. Jesus Christ was God's offering for all our sins. Jesus sets us free from the power of Satan." Many others were reaching for the papers, so Ringu and Batu watched the man who was making the music. He had a strange-looking box. He put his hand on some black and white sticks on one side of the box, and with the other hand he pushed and pulled the other side of the box. This made beautiful music. Ringu had never heard anything so wonderful. So it kind of reminded me of an accordion, but no, not really, sort of. The man stopped playing and stood up. "I am Pandu," he said. "I used to make many offerings to the evil spirits and bow down to false gods. In 3 days you will celebrate the festival of the bullocks. On that day you will bow down to the bullocks. You will make clay statues of them to put in front of your houses. The true God commands that you shall have no other gods but him. He says you shall not bow down yourself to false gods. He is the one true God. He tells us these things in his book, the Bible." Batu tugged at Ringu's arm. "Let's go. This is bad to hear. The evil spirits will be angry." "It is good if it is true," whispered Ringu. "When I have learned to read, I will read this paper from God and see." He unwound his turban, carefully placed the paper in its folds, and wrapped it around his head again. Ringu's foot hurt more than ever as he and Batu went back to their father. "You're limping," his father said. "Your foot is all right, isn't it, my son?" Yes, it's fine," murmured Ringu. He was determined to run as fast as he could, even if the foot hurt, even if he was the youngest and smallest in the race, because he wanted his father to be proud of him. But, thought Ringu fearfully, would it be possible the evil spirits would make my foot so bad that I couldn't run in the race at all? The thought alarmed Ringu. What was going to happen? Beating drums awoke Ringu the day of the festival of the bullocks. He looked anxiously at his aching foot. The heel where the long thorn had gone in was swollen, red, and ugly. Ringu stepped on it carefully. His foot throbbed as he limped to the front porch of the mud-walled, tile-roofed home. Ringu sat down on the bed on the porch thinking, why were the evil spirits this angry with him? They bought the beautiful cloth coverings for the bullocks and the cords with pompons and the sugar. A sob caught in Ringu's throat. He wanted to make his father proud of him. His mother came and stood beside him. What's the matter, son? My foot, Ringu said, holding back the sobs. It hurts, and I will run in the race, no matter what. Her cool hand held his hot foot for a moment, and then she called his father. Father took one look at the foot and hurried to bring the witch doctor. Batu came out, and the two boys trembled as they saw the witch doctor approach. He was bent over like an old man. Around his neck hung wooden beads, and several strings wound together and knotted. His turban was twisted tightly around his head, and from the top hung a thick twist of dark, shiny hair. His face was evil, and his eyes were sharp and piercing. Ringu was frightened. The witch doctor chanted while he tied a piece of string around Ringu's ankle. It was like the string Ringu had always worn around his neck, like all Korkas. Ringu's father dropped a few coins into the witch doctor's hand. Ringu knew it was important to pay the witch doctor or nothing good would happen. Ah, but you will have to offer a coconut too, the witch doctor said as he left. Phew, Ringu was glad his father had bought coconuts at the bazaar. When father would break it open and offer it at the rock idol, then surely his foot would get better. When the coconut milk spills over the rocks, Batu assured Ringu, the village gods will be happy. As Batu went for the bullocks, Ringu watched his father in the distance and thought of the words of the missionary in Pandu. He unwound his turban and took out the paper from God. Because he was learning the letters of the Hindi alphabet in school, he could recognize some of them in the paper, but he couldn't read the sentences. Ringu scratched his head and wondered. Pandu had said, "You are to worship the one true God and not idols." Why, terrible things would happen if they didn't please the evil spirits by obeying the witch doctor. How else would his foot get well? And would the bullocks work if no clay statues were made and no honor given the animals? The thoughts made him tremble, but he longed to know what the paper said. Batu brought the bullocks, and Ringu pulled himself up. He caught his breath. His foot hurt more than ever. How could he race? Tears stung his eyes, but with a new determination, he forced himself to walk without limping. After washing the bullocks at the river, sharp jabs of pain shot up Ringu's leg. He let himself limp as they started back to the house. Is your foot worse? Batu asked anxiously. Will you be able to run in the race? Yes, my foot will be all right. Ringu clenched the ropes in his fist and walked as firmly as he could. At last it was time for the race. His foot hurt terribly, but Ringu held his head high, gritted his teeth, and smiled as he walked staunchly beside the bullocks to the starting place. At the signal, the bullocks were off. Everyone yelled at his team. Ringu yelled and twisted his bullocks' tails, and the animals broke into a fast run. The dust whirled. He held on to the reins tightly as the bullocks almost jerked his arms from their sockets. They passed some teams. Then he stumbled and started to fall, but the speed of the bullocks swept him to his feet again. He gripped the reins tighter and shouted and hollered, half with pain and half with excitement. He pulled ahead of all the others. He was in the lead. The race was over, and he had won. Batu jumped up and down, and Ringu grinned widely as garlands of flowers were put around the bullocks' necks. Even though the spirits had made Ringu's foot better, he had won. He looked toward his father and saw him smiling. Yes, his father was proud, very proud of him. Back at home after the race, Ringu sat weakly on the rope bed on the front porch with the family around him. He was worn out, and his foot was making him sick. His father patted his shoulder. You ran well, my son. I am proud of you. But your foot is not better. We have done something to anger the spirits. We must send for the witch doctor again. The witch doctor was soon at Ringu's house. He untied a small cloth in which he carried the many things he used to drive away the evil spirits. First, he swirled some red pepper into the air. Achoo! Choo! Choo! Ringu sneezed. Good, the witch doctor exclaimed. That will help drive out the evil spirits. Then the witch doctor pulled Ringu toward him and sat him between his crossed legs and put his mouth by Ringu's ear. Ringu shook with fear as the witch doctor blew hard several times right into his ear. It hurt, but Ringu knew this was supposed to make the evil spirits leave his body. Next, the witch doctor took out a peacock's feather and tied it around the swollen ankle. Finally, he opened a bottle and poured something from it on the sore foot. From a little bag, he poured some black powdery stuff over the liquid and then rubbed it hard into the sore. Ringu shrieked. That's good, the doctor said gleefully. The yells will drive the evil spirits away. Then he chanted some strange words in a sing-song voice. Ringu sobbed quietly. He was discouraged. If only he believed that Jesus had given his blood to pay for his sins, he would not need to fear the evil spirits. The spirits are not satisfied, he thought. It was even bad to win. The God who can free me from Satan would be good to know. I will learn how to read soon, and then I will see about the Sahib's God from the paper. Then a thought startled him. If the evil spirits did not leave his foot, and they made it worse and worse, then he could not go to school and learn to read. What was going to happen?